Coach Dharam here, and I want to talk to you about grief. So, what's the deal with grief? What is it? What's going on there? Grief is a universal human response to loss. All kinds of loss. Loss of a loved one through death, loss of health, loss of security, loss of familiarity, loss of trust, all kinds of loss. You have loss, you're going to have grief. And it may be large, it might be small, but you're going to have grief. So we all have grief, but what good is it? What's the point of all that pain? What can it do for us? Well, grief is the most continuously available emotional resource for personal transformation. What do we get from grief? We get learning, we get growth, we get adaptivity, we get expansiveness, creativity, ability to go through change. So what happens with grief? If it's so good, why does it feel so bad? Well, grief is a disruption of chemical signals to the pleasure center of the brain, which means that you're basically going into withdrawal. And if you're familiar with withdrawal from substances like alcohol or cigarettes or drugs or anything that you rely on to feel good, then you're going to feel really bad when you're not getting those signals anymore. So when I say really bad, what's happening? Well, on the most basic level, there's a disruption in the brainstem of the arousal system, which means you're either over-aroused, overstimulated, overwhelmed, or you're under-aroused, lethargic, unmotivated, and numb. And that means there's an imbalance between the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. Well, if you heard my interview with Carl, I described the sympathetic nervous system as the part that controls muscular activity and action. And the parasympathetic nervous system controls rest, repair, digestion. Okay, well, when you're overstimulated, that is fight or flight, but it's also can be dissociation and freeze. It can be a really high blood pressure, heart is beating, your muscles are ready to engage, your hearing, your senses are all super stimulated and you're just worked up. Or it could mean a real shock, drop of blood pressure, lapse of awareness or consciousness, spacing out. You can faint. That's a freeze reaction, and it's from dysregulation of the arousal at the brainstem. And so because there's an imbalance between the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, you're going to see physiological imbalance and disruption in ability to sleep. You're going to have changes in appetite. You're going to have difficulty with attention, with learning, with memory, with ability to sit still or ability to get up and move, ability to pay attention, ability to pretty much take care of yourself and do the things that you like to do that give your brain that flow of pleasure signals that say, yeah, you're okay, life is good. Grief also has a psychological impact. It can make you really irritable. It can make you really angry. It can make you feel sad, and it can make you feel out of control. And you can have a lot of feelings all at once, or you can feel nothing, and the things that you used to like just don't seem to mean anything. And you can feel loss of interest in life and depressed, and feel like, what is the meaning, and where is the meaning? I've lost it. Well, you don't really lose anything psychologically. Your life is really very complete and whole all the time in your memory, in this internal landscape of who you are, what has made you become what you are. You can hold on to anything that has real significance and meaning to you, anything that has value. You still have. It isn't lost. But it's inside you somewhere. And in your grief, it's still really locked inside you. And that aspect of personal transformation, of becoming able to learn, grow, be creative and expansive and adaptive and come into change, is how you figure out how to live in a way that all of this that's inside of you is expressed through your actions, through your words, through your relationships, through how you behave in the world. So I'm going to talk to you about a practice of taking care of your body in a way that allows it to go through this grief process and use the grief for transformation. And it's a sensory awareness practice, and it starts with self-care. It starts with taking care of regulating this body, this mind, this brain that's all dysregulated and shut down or overwhelmed, and bringing it into a level of balance where you can begin to use it to express this whole world inside of you in the world that's outside of you as well. I didn't develop this. I just have lived long enough to have learned from a lot of great teachers who have shared a tremendous amount of wisdom, and I've put a lot together through my own experience. And I just want to share some of the things that I do to use grief and to take care of myself through grief in order to be as fully and as much myself as I can be.